Right has one as well.
Thank you. Just some questions on the process for making a determination about whether a particular organisation is eligible for DGR status. Just can you quickly talk me through the process where an application is made, particularly for the purposes of a health promotion charity?
No, DGR's handled by the tax office, which we can answer, but probably. Yep.
If I could ask Tony Polakis to respond to that question.
Tony Polakis, Assistant Commissioner ATO. There's two aspects to this. First of all, you need to be determined to be a health promotion charity by the ACNC. Upon getting that determination, certain tax concessions will flow, and there are special conditions that apply to getting DGR status, which is one of the tax concessions that will flow. Those special conditions are generally...
I'm more interested in that first stage of the process, so it has to be determined by the ACNC to be a health promotion charity?
Sure.
Correct?
Yes.
So talk me through that. How do you make an assessment?
So through the registration process?
Yes. How do you determine that somebody's actually a health promotion charity?
Well, the organisation would apply, would complete a registration application with the ACNC.
Yep.
We would look at the charitable purposes that the organisation had. We would make an assessment as to whether they had exclusively charitable purposes, whether they're established for the public benefit.
Yep.
And we would look at the activities that the organisation is carrying out in order to further those purposes. So it's a purposes test, but we'd look at the information that's been provided by the organisation, and we would seek further information where necessary.
And what process do you undertake to ensure that the illness that they're purporting to prevent is actually an illness?
Well, the ACNC has been in operation since the 3rd of December last year.
Yes.
The sorts of information we would seek would be information about the illness that they've identified.
I might
if there's any medical evidence or expert evidence to substantiate that.
So, in the interest of time, because I know we're under a bit of time pressure here, I'll perhaps be specific. I'm talking specifically now about the Waubra Foundation, an organisation that is. That was granted DGR status on the basis of being a health promotion charity because it was purported to prevent something called wind turbine syndrome, which is not recognised by any medical body anywhere in the world as a medical condition. So what I'm interested in exploring, and I understand this decision was probably made before the ACNC came into existence. So the first question is, do you have any information as to the basis on which that decision was made? And secondly, is there a review process? I mean, you've obviously inherited a legacy of, this is a legacy that you've inherited. What do you do to review this, a situation where a complaint might be made?
Well, Senator, we will receive a complaint, and in this case we have, as you would be well aware. There are times that, in fact, we do pick up concerns through the media, and in fact often they come through the advice line. And then it's similar to the response that I just gave to Senator Seward, that there's a bit of a sifting to determine the evidence base for the complaint, and then we'll proceed to investigate. We do have compliance staff who and as you probably be aware, within the Act, a range of enforcement powers should they be required. So we can seek further information from the charity if allegations have been made that the charity is not what it purports to be. We can seek any range of information from them to assess that.
So, Senator, if I may add, if we were to receive a complaint regarding charitable status, then we would look to see what information, if it's possible to obtain the information that was provided on registration. So we would ordinarily contact the ATO if this was a matter that preceded the establishment of the ACNC and seek whether there's any information that the ATO have that was submitted by the organisation at the time of that initial determination. We would then certainly contact the charity and we would put any concerns that have been raised, and we would seek to either meet the charity or get written submissions from the organisation with regard to that. We would evaluate the information. We'd look to see whether it's necessary to obtain any academic or specialist advice for the ACNC with regard to that, and then we would make a determination.
Okay.
If we're in a situation where we believe that an organisation is no longer entitled to charitable status, then our process would normally be to issue a notice of intention to revoke the charitable status, which would put the organisation on notice of that and set out the grounds for that. They'd then have a further opportunity to come back with information. So that would be the process.
Yeah. Would you be concerned if an organisation that was granted DGR status on the basis of being a health promotion charity used that status to solicit donations ostensibly to act as a residents group, for example, try and solicit donations to appeal wind turbines, for example?
Well, obviously, we can't discuss individual cases or individual circumstances, Senator, but our concern would be to, as is set out in the legislation, to ensure that the organisation was still entitled to registration under the ACNC Act. If it was not entitled or had never been entitled, then certainly at that stage we would be looking to issue a notice of intention to revoke and to revoke.
And has the Commission recently conducted a review of the Waubra Foundation?
Senator, we're not able to discuss individual cases. We can confirm.
Well, this claim's been made by one of the directors of the Waubra Foundation, and has stated that they were given a clean bill of health by the Commission. I'm just seeking verification as to whether that's true or not.
Unfortunately, I can't. But I can't.
I'm not sure why. What's the issue there?
Well,
this has been granted. This is all on the public record.
The ACNC, in the same way as the ATO, has various secrecy provisions within our legislation. We're not entitled to give out information about particular cases.
Okay. Once you've concluded your investigation, is that information that you'll make public?
We would normally go back to a complainant at the conclusion of a matter to confirm whether the matter had been.
I've probably unfairly asked you a number of questions. The ATO are probably more relevant in this case because they made the original determination. Can I ask the ATO on what basis that determination was made?
Under the same secrecy and confidentiality laws, we can't discuss the facts of any individual case.
Okay. Can I ask that how it would be that an organisation that promotes that purports to prevent an illness that doesn't exist could be granted DGR status?
I think we're getting too close to the facts of the case.
No, this is a general question. How does the ATO verify that an illness is actually an illness as documented in the literature by the various DSM-4 criteria? That is how we define whether an illness exists or not in the medical literature. How does the ATO use that process through this determination of whether a particular organisation should qualify for DGR status?
I have to admit to not knowing the answer to that question.
So I could set myself up as the organisation to prevent football withdrawal syndrome and apply for DGR status? And you would have no basis on which to reference whether that's an illness or not?
You would have to apply through the ACNC and the ATO.
Well, okay, but previously we couldn't do that and we applied directly through the ATO.
That's right.
So what was the basis on which the ATO made a determination as to whether an illness was actually an illness?
I have to admit to not knowing the procedure in which we'd made those determinations well enough to answer your question.
Take it on notice?
Look, we could take that on notice and give a response as to the sort of evidence that would have been looked at there. It does sound a curious situation, but we will certainly take that on notice.
It is curious because what we've got here is an organisation that has been granted DGR status on the basis of being a health promotion charity, but the illness that it seeks to prevent doesn't exist anywhere. It's not been documented anywhere. So, without going into the specifics of this, you haven't got any information that you can present today about just generally what is the process for determining...
I'm not aware of the actual process that would be applied to go through the DGR status. What I can say, and why I say it's curious, is that DGR status is not easily obtained.
Yes, I would have thought that's right. Yes, that's why I'm happy
to go back and to have a look at this, because it is a relatively difficult process for obvious reasons.
As it should be.
As it should be. So I would be more than happy to go back and review the materials that pertain to this particular situation, but in response to your general question as to what is the sort of process. And there would have been one, because the DGR status is not easily given away.
Ultimately, the review that's conducted by the ACNC, is there an appeals process?
There is.
Could you just quickly outline what the appeals process is?
Well, initially there would be an internal review, so staff other than those involved in the decision would review the case. If the complainant was unhappy with the outcome of that review, then the matter can be taken to the Administrative Appeals Tribunal, and indeed if you're further not happy, then you could take the matter to the courts.
Okay. And how long would the process normally take for a review such as the one we're not supposed to be talking about?
Well, we're talking weeks, not months. In the case of the internal ACNC processes, it can take longer with the AAT.
And when would the complainant normally be notified? Within weeks at that time?
Yes.
Okay. I think I'm getting the wind up here.
Yes, you are.
Senator, can I
got
just
one more
finish?
question,
Please finish the answer.
Oh, no, I was just going to say to Senator Di Natale, as a Victorian, I think I can attest to football withdrawal syndrome in October.
You've been diagnosed.
That's right.
It depends on where your team ends up on the ladder, I think.
That's right.
Cricket overdose syndrome.
Could the ACNC clarify one point, which I think is, important for
Real quickly.
is that organisations that were already registered, there wasn't a process for you to check, was that you inherited them. That's correct.
That's correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
I thought it was